Well, good evening and thank you for joining me. I am First Alert Meteorologist Jake Lambright. Of course, lots to talk about when it comes to the ongoing drought conditions, burn bans, Saturday's storm threats. We'll get into all of that and more for your Friday forecast as well. And as always, feel free to leave your questions. I know we've got the storm threat Saturday, not anything too crazy. But if you have any questions about that or about the forecast in general, please feel free to leave those in our Facebook chat on the live stream itself. I've got the comments pulled up over here, and I'll be answering some of those questions for you here in just a moment as we dive a little bit further into the forecast. Real quick, before we get to, of course, those rain chances on Saturday, I want to talk a little bit about the latest updates to the drought monitor, as well as those active burn bans out there across the region. So I'm going to make this full screen here for just a moment. There's a look at active burn bans across central Louisiana that we have as of now. We have to independently confirm some of these, so it is a process. I do apologize. But so far, Sabine, Natchitoches, Vernon, Rapides, Beauregard, Allen, Evangeline, St. Landry, and Catahoula Parish are all under burn bans until further notice. So make sure that you're avoiding that outdoor burning if you can, and if you need to burn, make sure that you're adhering to those local and state guidelines. Make sure that everything is all good on that front before you begin any kind of outdoor burning. Just with how dry we've been and also the elevated fire danger that could return next week as well, probably best to hold off on that burning for a little while. The latest drought monitor does show deterioration of those drought conditions. Now, I talked about it briefly today, but really the noticeable changes here, and I'll zoom into central Louisiana, get a little more specific here. You'll notice that yellow shading has really expanded to include almost all of our area. Those indicate dry conditions, or kind of a pre-drought indicator, if you will. So we're not quite to drought conditions yet, but the ground is pretty dry, and if we don't see much of an improvement, we're going to start to see drought conditions start to take shape in those areas. Now, the tan color indicates moderate drought. I know moderate, you think it's somewhere in the middle, but moderate is level 1 out of 4 on the drought scale. That's the tan that you see there across portions of Allen, Evangeline, St. Landry Parish. It's even been pushed back a little further to the northwest, so it barely clips southeastern Vernon and southwestern Rapides Parish as well. The other area that we have moderate drought conditions, again, that level 1 out of 4 drought, was only along the Natchitoches Red River Parish line. With last week's update, this week it's expanded to include a good chunk of Natchitoches Parish and Sabine Parish. So we're seeing those drought conditions continue to deteriorate. And the only way we're going to see it get better is by seeing additional rain. Want to give you the first alert, of course, with that next front that's rolling in. First of 2 fronts that we're going to see over the next 7 days. So this one arrives this weekend, late Saturday, possibly Saturday night into early Sunday. And severe weather, a possibility, but severe weather is going to stay isolated in nature. And at the end of the day, I'm not super hopeful when it comes to rain coverage across the area. Of course, I'll show you one and a half scenarios that we have on Futurecast. The other one's still kind of loading in, but I've got one full one to show you here in just a moment. That severe weather outlook for Saturday, the slight risk, which is the level 2 out of 5 on the scale, stays to our north. So really along Interstate 20 and areas north. The southern extent of that includes Red River Parish, DeSoto Parish, even back into kind of Bienville and Jackson Parish in the Arklamis. That and areas north is where that slight risk is. For us in central Louisiana, the majority of us are under a marginal risk. That's a level 1 out of 5 for severe weather. That slight risk just barely clipping northern portions of Natchitoches and Wynn Parish. So we're looking at a low end threat. That doesn't mean our severe threat is 0, so we'll have to pay attention. But like I said, I do think most of us go Saturday without seeing the stronger storms. Those should stay to our north. So let's run through version 1 of Futurecast here. Saturday morning, you'll notice this line. I can actually zoom this out here so you can see it a little bit better. This version of Futurecast, a little bit quicker with the timing, at least for part of it. See there by 3 p.m. Let's go back into a statewide view there. You'll notice some of those isolated to scattered storms out ahead of the front and the main line, which that right there that you see is the main line of storms. Then by 8, 9 o'clock or so, you'll notice that line pushing across the Mississippi River, maybe a few additional showers and storms there in the Arklatex area. But by midnight to 1 a.m., we're dealing with a couple spotty showers and storms, and Futurecast really just has that line, either the high rain coverage being on the east side of the Mississippi or what's left of it for us, just kind of falling apart in general. Then, of course, we're done with everything by Sunday morning. The air will feel a lot more crisp and cool. The cold front will move through. Winds will be out of the north. Overall, looking like a pretty great deal by the time we get to that point. Now, we'll go ahead and take a look at extended Futurecast, and I'll have to see if our system has actually fully loaded this in yet. It was in the process of kind of loading in here just a moment ago. But let me pull that up for you, and we'll fast forward into Saturday. So again, it's really later in the day Saturday that we see those storms roll through. This version of Futurecast, latest version, kind of speeding it up a little bit as well. You'll see 1 to 2 p.m. we're looking at that line being in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro, and then closer to 7, is when it arrives in central Louisiana. This version here has it holding together, at least parts of that line holding together a little bit better as it moves into central Louisiana. This one usually does a little bit better. I'm going to have to do some more behind the scenes forecasting here now that this new data is almost fully loaded in and kind of evaluate that. But this here, a very possible scenario. And in this case, I do think the strongest of the storms, most of them stay to our north in the Ark-La-Miss area around 6 to 7 p.m. What's left of that could bring some heavy rain, and we could use some heavy rain. I'm all for the heavy rain. Just don't want the severe weather, of course. So going to be watching this closely. This is as far out as it goes, so I can't take this version out any further. Of course, by tomorrow morning, this high resolution version of Futurecast will be all the way through. So expect further updates tomorrow on the severe weather potential. For now, again, stays on the lower end, maybe rain coverage, if that is what we end up saying happening there, that model scenario does result in a little bit more rain coverage for us across central Louisiana. And as I've been saying, we need it. We need to put a dent on those drought conditions. Beyond that, I know here for Saturday during the day, I've got 30%. Sunday during the day, 20%. Saturday nights where I've got it at about 50 to 60%. Rain chances taper off. Rest of Sunday into Monday, low and rain chances return once again as that second front moves through early next week. And that is going to drop our temperatures a little bit more noticeably. Not anything crazy for this time of the year. The numbers, when I show you here on your 10-day forecast in a moment, you might be shocked, but it is kind of where we need to be for this time of the year. Definitely some of the coolest afternoon weather we've seen so far this season. As I've also mentioned before, of course, giving you the first alert the past couple of days, that kind of area near the Caribbean, the Hurricane Center officially highlighting it now. It's up to a 30% chance of becoming an organized system within the next 7 days. So how things are going, wouldn't be surprised to eventually see that bumped up to a moderate risk of development and then a high. We'll have to see, though. For now, I'm not concerned with it. For us along the Gulf Coast, for us in Louisiana. If that changes, though, of course, I'll give you the first alert if it's something you need to put on your radar. For now, though, no cause for concern there. There is an additional area that the Hurricane Center just tagged, this little X right here, but not too concerned about that as it continues moving out away from the United States as a whole. So right now, things are going to stay pretty quiet. That's a look at England Air Park. Things, again, going to stay very tranquil overnight tonight. Temperatures this afternoon, upper 80s to low 90s, and we've got about 2 more days of very similar weather conditions. You can see that here on our high temperature trend for the next 7 days. Noticeable dip after cold front 1, upper 80s to low 80s, then mid 80s first half of the week. Then we're back in the mid to upper 70s the second half of the week, which 76, a couple degrees below that average, 79. We're getting a lot closer to average for this time of the year. Our average will actually be in the upper 70s by the end of the month, so that cooler weather should be here by now. I know it's really felt more like August, September as opposed to October, but cooler weather is on the way. Hopefully this time it decides to stick around for a little while longer. Real quick before I dive into those current conditions, I do want to remind you, if you have any questions about the storm threat, the timing, the tropics, just general questions about the forecast, how's my Friday night football game looking, feel free to leave those here in our Facebook comments. I've got some of them up here, and I'll be pulling those here in a moment. So kind of a last call for any questions as I start to wrap things up here. Right now, temperatures looking pretty good, upper 60s to low 70s. Things looking nice so far. We'll continue to see those drop into the lower 60s, maybe mid 60s in a few spots overnight tonight. Those morning lows warming up gradually over the last couple of days as humidity has increased. And tonight we'll have a little bit of cloud cover, which helps to trap that heat in the air as well. So here's a look at the next couple of hours. Slow descend there to the low 60s by morning commute time, at least here in Alexandria tomorrow. Back to the mid 80s by noon tomorrow. So going to be warming up here pretty quickly. All right, here's a check of your first alert 7-day forecast. Again, really watching Saturday night into Sunday. Still leaning towards severe weather being isolated, maybe scattered in nature at best, meaning that there are going to be a pretty sizable portions of the area that will dodge the stronger storms. Of course, if that changes, if things trend differently, keep an eye on it and let you know, give you the first alert to that. But for now, I'm going to be watching storms very closely on Saturday. I'm in for Ian. I'll be tracking those here, whether it's through streaming, whether it's through social media. Of course, we're going to keep tabs on those storms as we go throughout Saturday night. Then after that, things looking a little bit better. Isolated rain on Tuesday, followed by dry conditions and cool temperatures Wednesday, Thursday, even as we head through the rest of the work week, and not this upcoming weekend, but the weekend after that. High temperatures will be keeping it in the upper 70s to low 80s, which is very seasonable for us this time of the year. Again, I know it has been unseasonably warm. When are these cool temperatures finally going to arrive? But fingers crossed, these will hold for a little bit longer than 2 to 3 days. All right, so I'm going to pull some comments here. I see a couple here. See Rhonda joining me this evening. Thank you so much for joining and for trusting me and the KALB team for your weather updates. I'm also joining. Thank you as well for staying tuned with the live stream. And again, we're going to be keeping you posted. Always here, 9 o'clock every evening, rain or shine, keeping you posted with the latest, and always here to answer your questions when it comes to central Louisiana's forecast. I also see Max here leaving a comment. How strong will storms be for the Oakdale community on Saturday? It is a little bit hard to say this far out because severe weather, I'm not expecting this entire line to be severe warned as we head into Saturday. I only think little bits and fragments, if we see a solid line, will be severe warned. So for the strongest of the storms, and that could be anywhere in central Louisiana, no guarantee for you in Oakdale, but the strongest parts of that line could bring some gusty winds, maybe up to 60 miles per hour. There's also a very low end tornado threat. It is very, very low. Not expecting much in the way of tornadic storms as we head into Saturday night. But damaging winds going to be the main threat that I'm going to be keeping an eye on as we head through Saturday evening and Saturday night. But all right, I don't see any more questions here, so I'm going to go ahead and hop off for now. Of course, I'll see you on the air on NBC in about 50 minutes. And if you're watching this on your smart TV, on your Roku, Fire, Apple TV through KALB, we'll be right back here with your news and weather tonight at 10. You can also catch that on our website, kalb.com/livestream. All right, tonight is Thursday, so with Friday Night Football going on, I won't be live tomorrow at 9, but I'll be right back here on the live stream 9 p.m. Monday night. And again, always giving you your full forecast. If you want to head to bed early any night, you can join me here around 9 p.m. I'll send you a notification to your phone on the KALB app. And we'll chat a little bit about the weather, of course. I'm always happy to answer those weather questions as well. So I hope that all of y'all had a great Thursday and a great Friday weekend ahead. Almost there, just one more day to go. And I'll see y'all live in the field coming up tomorrow night at 4 and 5. Thanks so much for joining me. Y'all have a great night.